Hello and salam. Welcome to Muslim Viewpoint, a new podcast series powered by American Muslim Today. We are a groundbreaking non-profit digital newspaper who champions civic engagement. AMT informs and empowers the diverse voices of almost 30 million Muslims here in the US and other Western countries. I'm Rifat Malik, I'm AMT's editor-in-chief, and today we have an interview with attorney Lubna Shuja, who is the first South Asian, first Muslim, and only the seventh female president of the Law Society of England and Wales in its nearly 200-year history. She shares her plans to improve the lives of community members and practicing lawyers, as well as her perspective on why diversity in the legal world is crucial. She spoke to our reporter, Maya Gayler.
Just to be in this role is an immense honour and a privilege. It really, really is. I'm also only the seventh female president. So in almost 200 years, we've only had seven female presidents. And as you said, I'm the first Asian and the first Muslim. It's an absolute honour, and I think it's a real indication of how much our profession is changing. I'm really delighted that we're starting to see that change, and I certainly hope that although I am the first one, I will not be the last one. I hope there will be many, many more coming up after me.
Right. And so what do you hope to accomplish in your position as president?
Oh, goodness. Well, that's a huge question. So I have a presidential plan, which will formulate the basis of a lot of the work that I am doing. Diversity, obviously, is a very, very important part of that plan. As you've already said, I'm Muslim. I'm Asian. I'm actually from a working class background. I went to state school here in England, and my parents weren't wealthy. I didn't think that I would be able to get into law. I didn't think I could become a lawyer. So it's really, really important to me that I do everything that I can to make sure not only that those from Black, Asian, minority ethnic background and women are able to join our profession, and those who have disabilities, those who are from underprivileged backgrounds. It's important to me that they are all able to join our profession, but also that they're able to progress through the profession and get to the senior levels of the profession. Because when I joined the profession, and this was almost 30 years ago, I've been a solicitor for just over 30 years now. And when I joined the profession, there were only 709 solicitors who were from a Black, Asian, or minority ethnic background. And there weren't many women in the profession either. Whereas now I'm really delighted to be able to say that we have got 18%. So the Law Society of England and Wales represents over 220,000 solicitors. And I'm really pleased to say that 18% of those are from a Black, Asian, or minority ethnic background, and 53%, so over half of those, are female. So we've seen really good levels of diversity in terms of the overall composition of the profession, but we need to see it, getting to more senior levels. Then there are other things that I'm working on as well. So one of the things that I'm really keen on is work around our justice system and around, the Law Society being a really strong voice when it comes to speaking up about access to justice, particularly for those people who are from deprived backgrounds, those people who are on a low income, who at the moment are struggling a great deal to be able to access legal advice. We have a lot of issues here in England and Wales with legal aid. So legal aid is where funding is provided to those on very low incomes to help them to get legal advice in certain areas of law. And we have found more over the last few years, many solicitors are leaving legal aid work because they can't afford to do it anymore. And that's because the rates are so low. There's been no increase in those rates for almost 25 years. So we've got huge areas of England and Wales where members of the public, if they find themselves in trouble, if they find that they want advice about debt, about housing, about immigration, there just isn't a solicitor nearby that they can get advice from, and that's a really big problem. We also know that our court estate is not in a good condition either. We've got a lot of problems with courts that are closed because they're not functioning. So, for example, because the heating system isn't working, or the air conditioning isn't working, or the toilets are not working, or the fire alarm isn't working. And that means that those courts are out of action until those matters are fixed. And that's had a knock-on effect. So, the problem with not having enough solicitors dealing with legal aid work, and also not having enough courtrooms that are open, that's having a knock-on effect, which means we've got really, really, really big backlogs with court cases in our courts. And that's not acceptable either. So that's another area that we're doing work in. And, I really want to get members of the public to understand the value that solicitors bring to society. The work that solicitors do, it really underpins society. It underpins, businesses, contracts, marriage, divorce, wills. Even when people die, you've got to go to a solicitor to help you to sort out the estate and the probate. So for me, it's, I want people to understand why solicitors are valuable and why they're so important in society. Because generally people only really understand that when they need to use a solicitor. And that's when they're in a time of crisis, or when they're in trouble, or when they just need advice on a particular matter. That's when they'll start to appreciate, what does a solicitor do? How can a solicitor help me? Whereas I want to get much, much wider public understanding. This is why solicitors are important in society. So that's another piece of work that I'm doing as part of my presidential plan. Another area of work that I'm focusing on is ethics, which is around, where, solicitors in England and Wales are actually one of the most highly regulated professionals in the world. And we want to do a focus on highlighting how well they're regulated, and on helping them with guidance and advice when there are those areas where perhaps they need a little bit more support to work out how to deal with things. So, for example, climate change, that's a really, really good example where, public opinion is changing, and solicitors need to think carefully about, how do we deal with this within our own businesses? How do we advise clients to help them to be more climate friendly? And what can we do to really move the dial in that direction? So those are some of the headline. I'm also doing a lot of work internationally as well. So internationally, it's promoting and highlighting the legal system in England and Wales, which is one of the most highly reputed jurisdictions across the world. And many people from other countries around the world will come to England and Wales with their disputes because they want them to be dealt with here. So in fact, we are the second most popular jurisdiction behind America in the whole of the world. So that's another part of my role, which is going out and promoting that, and talking to lawyers all over the world to see what we can learn from them. So that's a very quick canter through what I'm doing in my presidential year.
Right. It sounds like you have a very solid plan. So in your career, you've had a solid career, and now obviously you're in a position because you have made great success. So have you faced challenges, perhaps based on your gender, faith, ethnicity?
I mean, I think everybody faces challenges during their career. There's no doubt about that. We all have our own individual challenges depending on, you know, what our backgrounds are and where we've come from. Certainly for me, as a working class person from, and I'm from the north in Yorkshire. And also as a Muslim woman, of course, there were challenges that I had to face when I came into the profession. There's no doubt, I've already explained to you that there weren't many solicitors who were Black, Asian, or minority ethnic. There weren't many women, so there weren't many people that looked like me when I was coming into the profession. As I was going through my training, and in fact, even during the early days of my profession, there were no mentors that I could turn to or look to. That wasn't even a word that was used at that time. Diversity wasn't something that people talked about at that time. So, you know, for me, I really just wanted to be a really, really good lawyer. That was really important to me. I wanted to be a good solicitor, and I got my head down and I just worked really, really, really hard to prove myself and to do the best that I can, that I could do. But, you know, there were challenges. Of course, there were challenges. As a Muslim woman from a working class background, I didn't have the same networks that many of my peers might have had. You know, my parents were not professionals. They were not from a professional background. So they couldn't introduce me to other networks that might be able to help me progress. And certainly when I started working and when I started going to networking events, it wasn't something that I was used to doing. It was quite an alien environment for me. Most of the networking that I attended, and in fact, many events that revolved around clients and around client hospitality, and even social events at work, they revolved around alcohol. You know, they'd be in places like, you know, in bars or in pubs or places where alcohol was served. And, you know, that was something that was very alien to me as a Muslim woman. You know, I've never been in bars or pubs or anything like that, and I didn't drink. I don't drink now. I've never drank alcohol in my life, so it was a very alien environment for me, an environment that I wasn't comfortable in. But I had to deal with it because, you know, at that time, 30 odd years ago, that was how you socialized. That was how you networked. So I had to stand there with my glass of water or my glass of orange juice and just, you know, just get stuck in and do what I needed to do. So that was quite a big challenge early on. You know, I felt very I was quite insecure in that environment. It wasn't something that I liked being in, but I got used to it, and I had to get used to it. And the other thing that was really challenging for me was when I first came into the profession, it wasn't unusual that women were not allowed to wear trousers. So the very, very first firm that I worked for, they actually had a rule that women couldn't wear trousers. And if you went to court back in the 1990s, early 1990s, women didn't wear trousers in court. And I remember just recently, actually, somebody told me a story when I mentioned this. They told me a story and they said to me they remembered being in court in England, and a woman was in court and stood up to address the judge in court, and that woman was wearing trousers. And the judge actually said to that woman, "I can't hear from you. You can't address me because you're not appropriately dressed." And, you know, that was not unusual. So that was a big challenge when I came into the profession because, you know, you had to dress in suits. You know, you're a professional, you want to be appropriately dressed, you wear suits. And, you know, finding skirt suits with very, very long skirts, because you will know as a Muslim woman, you know, if you're going to wear a skirt, it needs to be down to your ankles. You know, that's what you're going to do. So it's quite challenging trying to find skirt suits that would allow you to be appropriately dressed at work. But one of the very, very early achievements that I had, and that I'm really, really proud of, is that the firm where I was working at the very start of my career, it took me about 4 or 5 years, but I managed to persuade them that they had to change this rule of no trousers for women because it discriminated against me as a woman, it discriminated against me as a Muslim, and, you know, it discriminated against all the women in the firm. It wasn't just me. None of the women could wear trousers. So I was really pleased when I managed to persuade them to change that. And, you know, I was absolutely over the moon when I could go out and buy my first trouser suit. That was a great day.
Right. And so you've done a lot of work to to accomplish all of this. And you, as you mentioned, you didn't have any mentors, is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So,
No, I didn't have mentors. I had allies,
mhm,
which is slightly different from mentors.
mhm.
So I was very, very, very lucky throughout the course of my career. I've been so fortunate to work with some absolutely amazing, amazing people. And actually, the majority of them have been white males. And, they have, I've been able to turn to them when I've needed advice. I've learned from them, they've guided me. And quite often, they are the ones who have said to me, you should do that. You'd be good at that. You should have a go at that. You'd be good. When I think I'm not ready to do something, or when I thought, oh my goodness, there's no way I could deal with that. They've been the ones that have pushed me gently forward and said, actually, you should go for that. You'd be really good at it. And that's how opportunities open up. So I've been very, very lucky to have allies that have helped me during my career.
Yes. And then, so, I mean, if anyone can speak on this, it's you. So why do you think diversity is so important in the law profession and serving people?
Oh, it's absolutely, I mean, it's so important for a number of reasons. I mean, firstly, it makes really good business sense. First, clients like to instruct people that look like them. They like to talk to people who understand their background, their culture, who understand how they might have got themselves into the situation that they're in. We all like to talk to people that we relate to. And having a diverse workforce is really important to attracting diverse clients. But equally, a diverse workforce means that you have diversity of thought. So because you have people who have different experiences, different backgrounds, different cultures, different faiths, they will come at problems or issues with different mindsets, with a different approach, with a different outlook. And that's really, really important for, problem solving. And, it leads to making sure that you don't have what we call groupthink in organizations, which is not healthy for organizations. In an organization, you want to have diversity of thought. You want to hear different opinions. You want to hear different thoughts. You want to hear different solutions to different problems, because that's how you find the best way to deal with matters. So that's really important. And, we need to show that the legal profession is welcoming to anyone and everyone, no matter what your background, no matter what your social class, your wealth, your faith, your religion, whatever it is, disability, LGBTQ, whatever it is, we are open to everybody. And anyone who has the talent, anyone who has the ambition, they should be able to join the legal profession and be able to progress within it, because we should reflect the society that we serve. That's really, really important. And perhaps a little bit of advice to anybody who's listening. I talked about networking and how I found it difficult to do networking when I was coming into the profession. And I suppose one of the things that I would say is try and embrace that as early as you can, because networking is really, really important. And the reason for that is because quite often you might be networking with people that you might be in a room with people that you think are not going to be able to help you progress in your career. But you should always remember that you don't know who they know. And if they like you and if they remember you, they may be able to open doors for you, and they may be able to give you new opportunities. And I'm a really, really big believer of take every single opportunity that comes along, because you never know where that opportunity will take you or where it will lead you. One opportunity can often open other doors for you. And that's really, really important. And the other thing that I would say is always, always, always try to challenge yourself. Get outside your comfort zone, because when you're doing things that frighten you a little bit, that's when you're going to grow. That's when you're going to grow, and that's when you're going to progress in your career.
That is such good advice. Thank you so much for that. And then that kind of does give me one more point. So, what would you say to young Muslims specifically who are interested in becoming a lawyer?
Oh, I mean, I would say absolutely go for it. Go, absolutely. It's a fantastic profession. It's very rewarding. If you want to become a lawyer, you absolutely should go for it. And, don't be worried about being a Muslim. Don't be worried about your identity. Don't be worried about your faith. Embrace it, because actually your faith will bring something to the role. That's your USP, and you will have a different perspective from other people. You will attract different clients from other people. And don't hide who you are. Embrace who you are, because people respect you for that. If they can see that you are, if they can see that you have a faith, that shows that you have discipline. It shows that you have integrity. It shows that you have beliefs and values that are important to you. And often, when other people see that, they respect that in you. So just embrace it, and absolutely, it's a great profession to join.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today from me and Maya. Goodbye. But do be sure to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at American Muslim Today. And if you'd like to read more about this story and access more digital content, feel free to check out our website, AmericanMuslimToday.com. We'll see you next week on The Muslim Viewpoint.